Thank you, Jeffrey. Hi everyone, my name's Mawuena and I'm your host for today. We've got these amazing panellists. Can we give them another round of applause? And also yourself for making it today on a Wednesday evening. We love that. So I would like you guys to quickly introduce yourself in 10 words, because I know that we can ramble on in terms of introduction. So just 10 words, introduce yourself to the panel and let them know a bit more about yourself. We can start with Dan.
Okay, cool. That's not my 10 words though.
Okay.
I have to break the ice there. I'm Dan, and I help bridge the gap between employers and creatives. I think that's 10 words.
Hi, I'm Hope. I run Thinking Black. We support Black thinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not counting,
Okay.
but it sounds like
I
it's
also
awesome.
do a PhD.
Okay.
Ooh.
Hi everyone, I'm Ivié. I run the Body Respect Project, and we're a company that's dedicated to improving body image and self-esteem in people.
Amazing. How's everyone doing? All good? Yes? Loving it. So my name is Jeffrey Manso. So I'm a career coach and keynote speaker. So I help students and professionals find direction into the careers that they want to go into.
Okay, thank you. I feel like that was 10 words, so amazing. So to kick things off, I'm going to ask the first question. Could you all share what reclaiming narratives mean to you personally and how that theme has shaped your professional journey? If you want me to repeat the question again, I can, because it was a long one. So could you all share what reclaiming narratives means to you personally and how that theme has shaped your professional journey?
That's a really good question. I think reclaiming narrative to me is remember where I came from, and understanding who came along with me on that journey. Like I grew up in Kilburn, like I grew up in a council estate. I saw things and I was part of things that, that you're part of when you're just living in that council estate. Obviously people will judge you for who you are because of what you're stepping into. But I think reclaiming narrative is understanding that I had a vision, I had a goal when I was younger, and I wanted to understand and know that there was a future for me and the people around me. And just looking at, I kind of always said this, I was on the 7th floor, yeah, and I look outside and I was like, one day I'm going to get out of this prison, man. Like, that's how I felt like. So, when I'm looking outside, when I even pass sometimes, I pass by my old estate, and because I've got my barbers still in Kilburn, I'm just there like, right, I've come a long way, and Mum left something amazing for us in Wembley now, and just understanding that this is where I grew up, and knowing to always remain humble and be myself and understand like this is where it all started. So just kind of coming back to that and knowing that, you're never going to stay where you are, you're always going to keep moving around, and just knowing that, you're always going to keep growing. So that's me really reclaiming narrative, that's what I think.
No, that was definitely a good answer. I like the fact that you mentioned when you was in the estate, you'd look out and you'd say you need to get out of it, and it's like it's all about mindset. So thank you for that. Hope, you go next.
Yeah, I think for me, and kind of in regards to my business, I think it's super important for Black people to be included in the stories that we're told, in the ways in which we think about the world and also structure the world. And so kind of instead of images being superimposed onto us and being projected onto us having the means to kind of describe our own circumstances, to describe the way that we view the world. I think that's kind of the way I would think about it.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree in terms of making sure that we're part of the story, because I think the majority of the time you can only tell your story in the best way. So yeah, no, thank you for that. Ivié?
Hi. For me, reclaiming narratives is about tapping into your authentic voice and who you are. I think outside of stereotypes or outside of constructs that have been placed on us, is going beyond that and figuring out, actually, who am I? What's my narrative? I get to choose my narrative, and I get to decide where I'm going to go with that narrative as well. So that's a big part for me when I think of reclaiming, because, we shouldn't even have to reclaim, it should just be claiming. Who are we reclaiming from? But that being said, I often think that internalize a lot of narratives from popular culture and just growing up in a society that doesn't necessarily always benefit Black people and Black voices. So I do think that there is work to be done in untangling and unlearning and figuring out who you are as a person.
Yeah, no, thank you. I like the fact that you said we get to choose. I've got a question for you later on that you can delve into a bit deeper. But yeah, Jeffrey, on to you.
Yeah, I'll say reclaiming narratives for me is about, sharing your story and also just being a hope to the generation after you as well, because with social media there's this sort of pressure that you have to be this kind of person, a certain kind of person to be accepted, but I want everyone to know that you're absolutely fine the way you are as well, and you should never look at yourself and think that, if someone calls you weird then it means something's wrong. Use that to your advantage as well, because I wouldn't say I'm someone that had the best childhood as well, but naturally, when I began to understand myself and love myself more, I understand that I have a unique gift and I'm not meant to be for everyone, and not everyone's meant to be for me as well. And that's what I want to do, really just give hope to people and to say that, hey, you may not fit the social media or society norm, but who you are is so authentic because someone needs to see that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And it perfectly leads me to my next question for you, Jeffrey.
Oh, wow.
So Jeffrey, through your work with greatness coaching, you've empowered young people to take control of their career paths. How do you help students reclaim their career narratives, especially when they face challenges that can shape their opportunities?
I guess what I do is I just try and tell them the realness of their journey. Sometimes if a student doesn't get into their career straight away, they might think, okay, it's over. But sometimes I have to sort of let them know that when you're starting off, you may not necessarily be in the career that you want to go into, but there's something that you can learn along the way. So in terms of my journey, when I graduated from university in 2017, I worked in finance for a number of years, then I moved to advertising, and then I now work in higher education as well. And that wasn't necessarily something I thought about in uni, that when I finish I'm going to be jumping and hopping, but with me moving around to different places, it allows me to sort of get experience and be aware of certain things as well. So one thing I will let them know is to be strong, be resilient, but also seek mentorship as well. As you're navigating different spaces, speak to people who are in positions that you desire to be in, have a conversation with them and find out about what it's really like getting into this particular industry or this particular career path, so that you're aware of what you need to do. Because let's be honest, with certain job roles, they're going to advertise it as the best thing. They're going to try and talk about certain perks like free parking and all that, which you guys are free parking and table tennis table, come on. You need something that's a bit more real. So when you find out about challenges that come with certain roles, that gives you a thought process of knowing that, okay, even though these parts are exciting, these are the challenges that come along the way. And also, one thing I want to show people is that sometimes you may not necessarily know if a career is for you unless you actually do it. So you can read as many articles as you want, you can look at so many different people's story, but don't be afraid to start something. And even if you start something for some time and it doesn't end up being something that you want to do, that's okay. It's okay to fail and it's okay to learn. And I don't even see failure as failure, I just see it as a learning experience, because in life you either win or you learn, and that learning experience sometimes is what's more beneficial than the winning, because the learning can take you to the next place. And soon, when you're getting to a position where you've made it, you can share that knowledge to someone else. You can also share your experience as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jeffrey. I now understand why you're called greatness coaching, because I was pitching to be. But yeah, I just want to segue quickly to Ivié. So, with the Body Respect project, you focus on promoting dignity and inclusivity in schools and professional environments. How do you guide institutions in rewriting their narratives to become more inclusive and celebrate diverse experiences, especially from underrepresented communities?
Thank you for asking that. So in terms of how I kind of get to work in schools and organisation, I think it's presenting what we're doing as a need. It's not a want, it's something that is necessary as part of, especially in a schooling environment, where it's a diverse school, even if it's not necessarily a diverse school, all schools are diverse, just in different ways. And for me, it's promoting that body image, self-esteem, especially from an intersectional lens. So when I say intersectional lens, how gender, race, class, sexuality are all intersecting and creating a unique experience, and why that unique experience is actually so valuable to these environments. When you can practice dialectical thinking, so experiencing that two truths can happen at the same time, and if we don't have those intersectional experiences, it's, I guess, not as effective when you are, looking into solving problems. Like, that's just a life skill. It's about critical thinking. And apart from that, it's just what we should be doing. Like, it's kind of hard to sometimes, promote as to why things should be inclusive, because we're humans. We need to be included. We need to belong somewhere. Like, that is literally part of our evolution. Like, it's actually very primitive in a way. But I will say that I work with organizations and schools that resonate with my work. I don't force it into places where it's not wanted, because oftentimes it's not ready to have that in that environment. And I think that's an important lesson for me as well. Going where I'm wanted. Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah.
I like the answer, especially when you mentioned going where you're wanted, because I think sometimes we can be so passionate with what we're doing that we can try and force certain scenarios, and it's just not going to work. So I love that. I'm going to segue next to Hope. My question for you is, as the founder of Thinking Black, you've helped over 1,800 Black British students.
Wow, let's give a round of applause.
No, honestly, amazing. How do you see your work empowering young Black people to reclaim educational narratives that has historically been shaped by systemic biases?
Yeah, I think we do it in a few ways. One in particular is that we make sure that all the content that we teach centers Black narratives. And we do this in an interdisciplinary way as well. So it's not just Black history. We're looking at, like, how does AI exclude the Black community? Looking at things like facial recognition technology and criminal bias in the justice system, all the way to healthcare inequality. I think just showing Black people that we deserve to be centered across education. I think that's super empowering, because you're like, okay, there's all these Black thinkers, there's all these Black educators that have existed for ages and ages. And there's also ways that we can view the world that centers us and our histories and our lineage. And we also try and empower students by platforming them. So a thing that I feel really passionately about is, like, showing Black students that their voices matter by literally publishing them, giving them speaking opportunities, sharing their work with other literary magazines, letting them meet literary agents, just seeing their own thoughts become part of academic discourse in, like, a formal way, and also, like, in amongst their own community, showing them, I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm in a book, I think that's super empowering, because then when you go to universities, you don't feel small, you don't feel like, I don't deserve to speak because I didn't go to a good school, which is how I felt when I went to Oxford. I was like, oh my God. I think it's just showing students, like, yeah, your voice matters. I know you've got something to say, and we care about it. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. When you were speaking, I was actually reminded of a memory. This was when I was 13. I went to Ghana. I don't know if anyone's from Ghana here. No? Okay, just okay.
Ghanaians in the car?
No, okay. Okay, well, we're just here. It reminds me of a time when I went to Ghana when I was 13, and I went to go and visit my cousin in a school, and I was just like mind blown. The books had Black students, the TV adverts had Black students, and it really, as a 13-year-old girl, I was like, I didn't realize, it feels like I'm in another world. I didn't realize this could exist, and that's for the first time, that's when I started to think about, okay, representation is actually really important, because if I was able to notice as a 13-year-old girl, then I was like, okay, yeah, then there's actually a problem. But that segues nicely to that. And I've got a question for you, because I know you're definitely big in the media space and representation. So my question to you is media often shapes perceptions of different communities, and historically Black stories have been misrepresented or ignored. What role do you think Black creatives can play in rewriting these narratives, and how can platforms like Talk to Dan help?
Just that last bit again.
What role do you think Black creatives can play in rewriting these narratives, and how can platforms like Talk to Dan help?
Yeah, I think, so just talking about Black creators in general, I think the first thing is when we have a young Black creator that comes to our event, they feel like, oh, you know what, I may not feel good enough, or I've got this great idea, but don't know how to approach the people at the top, or the employers, or the recruiters and things. And I will say, if we're coming together and showcasing what we can build and what we can grow and what we can actually showcase to an employer, then that's the first step. But I think also at the same time, it's also showcasing that we're learning lots of different things happening, keeping up with the times, keeping up with what's going on. But also at the same time, I think it's the employers as well. So when we speak to them and say, look, we've met so-and-so at X college, or we've met this person at university, or someone that's actually dropped out of uni and their work is good, we need to give them it's not to say give them even a chance, but it's like actually the access route, the access point. And that's one thing that we've been doing well before COVID, having these conversations. I've been in lots of different Zoom calls and, Dan, you know, we need, and I was like, listen, just spit it out. You want Black creators? Okay, that's fine. We can do that for you, but be specific what you're looking for. Is it someone that has come from a council estate? Is it someone that is actually has a little to no English? Is it someone that is, you know, coming from maybe a hostel home? You know, all these sort of things. And I think because their view of the Black community is so far off, they might not know what's really going on. They're like, oh, well, Dan, you know, we're looking for this person. So it's about even sometimes to educate them, but also our Black creators also saying, look, we know that we're able to push forward ideas because there's some amazing young people we work with, and I think, you know, the ideas that they have, it's just a matter of getting that on a piece of paper and actually showcasing that to employers. Because we work with like big companies like Primetime TV, The Apprentice, The Repair Shop, all these sort of things, and I think sometimes they're like, we need to find these creators and just want to tick the box, but we're not about that. It's about actually you want to generally get these young people through those doors. So the big thing is about working collectively and putting on events. Even that's what we're doing, putting on events to help Black creatives to feel more even confident to apply for these roles, to feel they're actually going to get the opportunity and actually be in a room and feel, you know, I can actually go speak to Jason, that's the development producer at so-and-so company. I can actually speak to this person, because I think what's happened is that some don't feel as confident to actually go and share their ideas or their views, but we make it easier in the sense when we run these workshops, the networking workshops, how to brand yourself, online presence. And a lot of these companies, because we're quite a young team, they see that we resonate really well with these young creators, Black creators, people from all walks of life, and then they're able to be like, you know what, we can instill that trust in Talk to Dan and get these creators on board. But I think there's still a lot more work to do. It's got better. But I think with writing the story, Black creators need to first believe in you, where you come from. Don't change. I always say this, like when I speak to companies, you know, I grew up how I grew up, and this is what it is. And there's a lot of young people just like me, a lot of Black creators just like me. So I think it's being true to where you've come from, and then actually writing that story and say, you know, I've got this film idea, I want to put this on the paper and then actually show this. And it just takes that one shot, that one person to give an opportunity. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Honestly, like that was amazing in terms of just how passionate you are in helping young creatives get an opportunity, and all of you have such amazing stories in terms of what you're passionate about, what you've been working on. I think for me, even being an entrepreneur myself, I think one of the things I'm really curious to know is you guys have all made an amazing achievements, done so many milestones. My next question for you both is, how have you all overcome personal challenges and barriers in your life? Because I understand building is not easy, especially being a Black person. So how have you overcome challenges and barriers in your life?
Yeah, okay, I'll go. I think overcoming challenges and barriers in my life, I think I've always looked at, I've always wanted to be better anyway. I've always wanted to be the best, to put forward, you know, if it's a sort of work that I'm doing, I want to not just put out anything. You know, I want to always make sure that I put the best of the best and work to the best of my ability. I think overcoming challenges has sort of been for me where growing up where I've come from and being what I've been through, it's one of those things where it's even been a lonely journey. Like, you know, business, when you start, you feel like, oh God, this is tough. And you've got people that are relying on you, you know, like they're like, oh, when's that next job post coming out? Or when's the next event? And oh, damn, that was amazing. I want to see another event. I want to see something here. And it's pressure, but obviously, you know, I should say pressure is for tires. I feel like one of the things is that you've got to look at what you're doing and think to yourself, you know what, remember why you started. I think that's what I do every single day, like to overcome the challenges. Remember why you started. And whenever I go back to that, it kind of humbles me and helps me in a sense where I know my direction. Days get tough. There's so many obstacles. I think that there's times where it's like, man, this is difficult, but God's taking me through. And I think I've been very blessed to come through and come against a lot of like different people, like actually built relationships, rapport, and just met a lot of great people. I think like my journey in terms of like who I've met along the way has been a blessing. I'm still just very close with certain people, get to speak to people about things, mentoring, just the support system I have, my brothers, very close with them, so it helps a lot. I think family is key, so that's one thing, someone you can speak to, if even if it's a best friend. But obviously at the same time, it's hard. Even personal relationships can be hard because some people don't understand you, understand your time, and all that stuff. But that's something I'm even trying to improve on. So like, yeah, there's a lot of obstacles and challenges, but I think the first thing is like, just remember why you started, and then a lot of those challenges, obstacles kind of sort of slowly go, you know? That's me.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, definitely surrounding yourself with people that can support you. I think also having a good team that fills your gaps. Like, so I used to be like, I need to do every training, I need to upskill. And of course that's great, but also just being like, okay, marketing's not my strong point. Let me work with someone who gets that, who loves that and is passionate about it. And making sure you have good rapport within your like team. Like, you can all be honest with each other. It's something I struggle with. Like, I try and be too nice, but then trying to be super honest and everyone holding each other into account, I think helps so much, because then you're not taking everything onto yourself as a founder. I think that's really helped me. And also prioritizing different types of rest is something I'm trying to get better at. But obviously there's just laying down, but there's also, like you said, like social rest, like seeing friends and family, or spiritual rest where you're like trying to reconnect with things. I think trying to kind of have a holistic approach to yourself, and instead of being like productivity focused, you need yourself. Like someone said, you shouldn't light yourself on fire to make everyone else warm. And I really check in with myself, and I'm like, are you on fire? You know, in a bad way. So I think definitely like pausing to look after yourself in those ways. Yeah.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed actually what you said about getting people to fill in the gaps. And I agree. And also I think in doing so, in creating a team that works with you, also working with people you like makes the work very enjoyable. And I think that work should spark joy. And that's often something that's missing. Sometimes your skills may be compatible together, but your personalities aren't, and that's okay. To decide, actually, I just want to work with people where it's easy, we get along, and we can focus on the work itself. Personally, overcoming challenges, I think the foundation of having a strong sense of self is really important, and building those soft skills of how you communicate, how you conflict resolve, being able to speak to people candidly but compassionately at the same time. It really helps when trying to grow something or move forward, just being more cognizant of the skills that you have in dealing with others, like in a relational way. That's really supported me, and it's also meant, like, because I've tried to grow my self-esteem over the years, you can advocate for what you want, because a lot of the challenges early on I was having was not being able to advocate for myself. you know. So when you develop those skills of being able to advocate for yourself, it kind of changes the game for you. Like, it's like, wow, that was easy. So I would say, yeah, those are kind of, and of course, like rest. And another thing I'm learning actually is that I think we often get fed work-life balance, and I think that's so important, but work-life balance looks different for everyone. For me, when I'm focused and I'm in my flow state, I just want to work, okay, like, but then I realize there's a season that will come, and that might be a month, 2 weeks, where I'm like kind of tapped out and I want to practice other forms of rest. So just realizing that your work-life balance might be seasonal, it might be weekly, it doesn't have to be in one day, in 124 hours. Remember, time is a construct. So yeah, do what suits you.
No, interesting, thank you.
I would say that one of the main foundations for me is being a person of faith, so a relationship with God, so just praying to God, asking Him to guide me and heal me as well. But also another thing that I like to do is I like to learn from other people as well. I always believe that with everyone that you meet, there's always great things about them that you can learn. So if you're in an area where you're struggling to find that confidence to overcome challenges that may be triggering and overwhelming, try and find someone who has a history of successfully overcoming similar challenges that you've been through and learn from them as well. Whether that could be a social media video if you don't know the person, or if you might have some sort of access to the person, reach out to them as well and just ask them, hey, how did you overcome this particular challenge? I'd love to get some tips as well, because when you get advice from different people on how they've been able to overcome experiences, eventually you'll be able to get some foundation to help you go through as well. And also one thing I'll also say as well is to don't give up as well. When there's a thought of giving up, take a break. It's okay, it's better to take a break, rest up for a bit, and then go at it again, rather than quitting in a moment as well, because the worst thing that you can do is be too emotional to the point where you make a decision at that given moment and say that, you know what, that's it, I'm done. Because one thing about emotions is that they're up and down. Right now you could be feeling annoyed, but then in the morning you're feeling calm as well. So always wait to get to a place where you're feeling calm and ask yourself, okay, what's really stressing me, and also what things can I do in order to help me get over the stress? Is there someone I can reach out to get that support? And if there is, reach out to them as well. So I think that's something that's quite important as well, that don't try and take on everything by yourself, because sometimes you're trying to take on everything by yourself, you're trying to process the emotions, the thoughts, it can be overwhelming and not everyone can handle that, and that's okay. Social media makes it feel like everyone can handle pain, but I promise you, a lot of people are going through stuff and you can put them to the test. Someone that posted a nice story, reach out to them, they'll tell you the truth. They're going through a lot as well. So I would say reach out to someone who can help you in different areas of your life as well. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I feel like it's amazing because you all have different perspectives in terms of overcoming barriers and challenges. A question that came to mind that I wanted to know from you all is, was there a pivotal time within your life that you feel like changed the trajectory of your story? That's a deep question. Yeah.
I'll say definitely for my school days of, when I got heavily picked on as well, that left me in a place where I didn't want to be here. But now when I fast forward myself, I sort of look at myself and I'm like, you know what, even if I feel like my childhood, I felt wrong in my childhood, let me try and do something as an adult as well. So being in a position now where I'm literally, helping people, I have a lot of love and compassion for them as well. I don't just see it as, let me just speak and go. I'm trying to think about a problem that they go through. I'm trying to think about a challenge that they go through as well, because let's be honest, sometimes, we're all going to show our smile, but we're not going to show our anger and frustration. So what can I do to not only teach, but to also speak life into someone and to give them hope for their future, that, you know what, even if life may be lifing, if you change the way that you see a situation, if you just keep going, if you do these particular strategies, that also helps as well. So I'll say that's been a pivotal moment for me as well, where you think about the people that you've been called to serve and you go out there and actually serve them as well. Because if you think so much about yourself, then, you're not really helping anyone. But the gifts and talent that God has given you is to be used to help others as well. And always look at every person as an opportunity. Even before we started, I helped this sister here as well on different things that she was going through, and I actually love that as well. I also would say just be a solution provider as well. Understand what someone is going through and just try and help. Even if you can't solve their problem, try and be proactive to help them with support as well. That's what I would say. Hope that all makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you. It does.
A pivotal moment, that was the question.
Yeah, a pivotal moment in your life that you feel like changed the trajectory and made you who you are today.
Okay. Well, I think I've had many pivotal moments, so I'll choose one that relates specifically to the Body Respect Project and how that came to be. I was really struggling in drama school. I was the only black girl in the whole class, and it's funny because I've actually been that a lot growing up. I was privately educated, so many times I have been the only like black person in that space. But then I ended up going to university and like creating a HBCU in Warwick. like I was like, wow, why are people where? I actually didn't know them at that point. So going back to like a space where it was like purely white, it was actually kind of like really dissettling for me. And it wasn't just because it was purely white, it was because it wasn't an inclusive space. So let me be specific to that. And I was really struggling doing my master's in acting, so I'm an actor as well. And I was thinking, I found I was carrying shame that I didn't realize I was carrying around my body image and just how I was being in that space, feeling foreign. And I decided, I really need to look into this, and it's also a part of my art practice. How can I show up fully creatively if I'm carrying shame or being, not fully confident in who I am? Like, that will translate in how I present my art. So I ended up taking a trip to Nairobi, Kenya, because I was thinking, I want to be in a black space as I explore this, and I want to explore it in community. And then I started hosting these body image workshops in Nairobi, Kenya. I was, just doing that, and people were sharing their stories, and we were communing together, talking. I was growing my practice as a facilitator, all these different things. And what was coming up a lot is that so much trauma happens in our childhood, and so many of our quote-unquote issues stem from our childhood. And I just thought, something needs to be done about this. And so that's kind of how the Body Respect Project came to be, because I was like, these conversations, we're having them as adults now, and we're trying to untangle it, but how do we do that in a younger space, like when people are younger, essentially. And I wanted to, make that happen. So I'd say negativity and struggle, a lot of positivity can actually come from it. And I was listening to a podcast, I think yesterday, and I can't even remember the name of the podcast, but what resonated with me is that they said, negativity isn't inherently negative. So much, when you're in a pressurized state or in a negative state, actually a lot of your growth and involvement can come from that. So I would say to actually embrace when you are there, because a lot can delve from, those circumstances. A lot of your greatness comes from negativity, actually.
Thank you. I like the fact that you mentioned how you took that bold step and went to Kenya because you wanted to be surrounded in an environment where you felt like you was a bit more comfortable. So thank you for sharing. And Hope?
I think one pivotal moment for me was I was at Oxford. It was very white, similar, but I'd come from a very diverse state school, so it was a shock to the system, and the amount of microaggressions were just wild. And I ended up being like the president of my student union. I felt like, oh my God, there's so much pressure. I'm so visible. I'm probably the first black woman that's been in this role in this college. I'm representing all these people, and I wanted to do good by them so badly, but the higher ups just were not listening. And I got into kind of a dark place where I started to feel like almost guilty for being the one that kind of made it out my area and not doing enough. And then I went to a panel discussion where they had flown in the mothers of young black men that had been killed by the police in the US. And they were talking about their activism and how they kind of transmuted all that pain into doing the work to try and change the rest of society. And everyone was crying. I was crying because also I was already sad. But also hearing from them was really, really like powerful and heartbreaking. And I remember that one of the panelists was like, what will your tears become? Like, I see you all crying, that's cute, thanks, but what are your tears gonna become? I just felt so galvanized. I was like, okay, wait, I can be sad, sure, but let me try and transmute this into something. And I just took so much of that energy, and just them old white professors, man, I made them cry by talking about systemic racism in Oxford, and then they opened up their purses. So I think that was a big pivotal moment, and it's kind of happened again and again, like in 2020, and where it's been like, this is really, really sad. How can I how can I change this energy from anger and sadness and how dark and deep it is into pushing into change, basically, yeah.
Thank you, that was powerful. So yes, Dan.
Yeah, I was just hearing everyone and I was like, yeah, some really good stories there. But like, I wanted to share this because this is pivotal for me, and like, it's an open space, it's Black History Month, and I think, you know, it's something that obviously I open to share. So something that's been pivotal for me and changed my trajectory. Obviously, my mum passed in 2014. So like, this year's the 10th year. And I think for me, it was sort of like, knowing that happened when Mum was actually alive. She also said, life is what you make it. And I wanted to take little increments on what she said to me and use that energy to do good for, you know, whatever space I'm in. And my mum always sort of spread good sort of energy, like wherever she was, within any room. And I think for me, it was like kind of like, I started to talk to Dan in 2017, so 3 years after. It's like, one of the things is I always understood that her light was shining on me, my brothers, you know, people, God was watching over us. But it's this whole thing of where we are right now, you know, even a couple of months ago, we won an award, and being awarded in an agency, that's even a blessing in itself. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think still I'm a very small team, and the people we've met along the way have come from like real connections, and sort of also come from just different walks of life. And I think kind of just knowing that Mum is just watching over us and kind of like just having that sort of positive energy, and getting that recognition as well, because obviously as a small business, really only having a couple of people on board, it's always hard to kind of put yourself out there. But when Mum always said life is what you make it, just that saying there, it just made me think, you know what, Mum didn't come from Ghana to come here to work and to build and to grow and all those sort of things. For me to just sit here and just be like, oh, you know, this is what it is. I wanted to create history, just like how we all create history. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to change people's lives. I think I've always been that person where I want to impact people, and just kind of have that sort of positive outlook on kind of seeing where people start and then where people end. So I'm big on that transition. I think that's me. Like I've met people and I'm like, you know, I remember when you were here this year and where you are now, and it's great to see what you've learned. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think when I was just hearing it, I was like, yeah, I'm willing to share this. I'm ready to kind of like just talk about it. So yeah.
No, thank you for sharing. I think what was interesting is that all of you four had a common theme in the sense where you shared that pivotal moment that fueled your passion to keep going, and it's who you are today and how it's made your company, your brand. And when you were sharing your story, I think one of the questions that came to mind was, okay, yes, you're passionate, you've got your story, but was there ever a risk that you took within your career or your business that you was like, you know what, this is risky, but it paid off? Another deep question.
Risky, but it paid off. I think that when you know you're ready to, I think building a team, I think that's probably what I'm going to talk about. Like, that's the big risk, because you do it all by yourself. And I was running Talks Time for like 3 years, more or less myself. And then I was like, I'm ready to build a team. But I was like, oh, but no, wait, before I do this, I've got to pay people. Then I'm kind of like stressed out, I'm going to pay people on time. And then I'm going to think, okay, that person might just leave the company and whatever it is. So I think for me, it was like the building the team bit, because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're going to come against. But even building a team has taught me so many different things: operations, management, dealing with different personalities, understanding you're dealing with a human being, you know, caring about their responsibilities and how they want to grow, their growth, you kind of come a bit selfless in a sense. It depends who you are, but I think for me, I've always put that person first and always wanted to see the best in them. And I think, yeah, that's definitely been one of the biggest things for me, building the team. Am I answering it right, the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think building the team, it's been tough, but I think it's also been a blessing as well, I think, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like everything's a risk. Or I'm just anxious. One particular one that I can think of was, so I started what is now called Thinking Black whilst I was at uni, that was 2017. And after uni, I had to argue for a break. I really wanted to take a year off and recalibrate. And in that year off, I ended up going to New York and working in a lab where we were looking at like racism from a neuroscience perspective. I also ended up doing lots of community education projects, like just going to learn. And I took so much of that and put it into what is now Thinking Black. Like, it was so inspired by the professors I met there and the stuff that I learned. But I probably had to fight to have that year off and even to leave because the funders were like, nah, it'll just go stale afterwards. You're gonna have to fight to get this funding back. Like, they were really anti it, and I think it shook my confidence a bit because sometimes, I don't know, as a Nigerian, I just trust that elders know best, you know, like I respect my elders to down. So yeah, talking back to them, taking that risk and knowing that, okay, I think it's going to pay off, you know, and it did. So I think, you know, trusting in your intuition and being able to kind of pause, even when people are dangling money in front of your face and threatening to pull the net away from you. I think sometimes you just have to do it because sometimes they want to keep you small.
I like the fact that you mentioned about the money thing, because I think sometimes money can be a big issue in terms of controlling people. So thank you for sharing.
I would say risk. I think for me, the risk would be not living an authentic life and going after the things that, you know, bring us joy, bring us closer to our communities, if that's important to you, doing impactful work. It was more risky being in a job that I didn't enjoy than it is risky now. It was more unstable for me. It was more unstable for my health. It was more unstable for my mental health. And also, like, it was still precarious. Like, yeah, you might have like a permanent role or whatever, but you can still be fired and given 1 month's notice and you're out. So for me, I think that's how I choose to kind of see risk, like what's going to lead me furthest away from myself, and that is the risk, and I don't want to be close to that. So I try to move with integrity.
Thank you. And Jeffrey?
I would say probably one of the risks, and especially when starting a business, is money. Not necessarily having the money, but spending the money as well. Working out where should you actually spend money as well. And I feel like sometimes it's kind of like, ooh, if you get it wrong, it's going to be a bit peak. But how I was able to come to a decision to identify what I need is that I had to look at some of the things that I'm good at. What are some things that I'm good at? And also, what are some things that I need support in as well? So with me, when I started this journey of trying to get into schools, it was a bit difficult to get in. So I vetted into a coach who has experience getting into schools as well. And of course, there was risk because, yeah, even though they can get someone into schools, were they really going to help me as well? Because, you know, online there's a lot of people that are scamming, a lot of people trying to take your money as well. So when I started to just, you know, make that decision to go for it, and I eventually got that tips and advice to eventually break through, that definitely did help as well. So that was definitely something that I would say, like, you know, sometimes, like, you know, yeah, it's not just having money, but then how to spend that money carefully as well, like, because, you know, when you're starting out, you can't just spend anyhow and buy. You have to make sure that you're buying with purpose and also you're buying with meaning as well. And even similar to what you said as well, when you're getting to a point where you're looking to hire as well, that's something I want to do in the near future, hire different people to help me, because like when it comes to stuff like emails, it's a lot. Like, I can't lie, like having to do the outreach and then the follow up. I think the follow up will be longer than the outreach. Like, I just about type up this email and now I have to try and follow up as well. So yeah, that's definitely something I would say.
No, thank you. I feel like it's so interesting that you all took risk and it paid off. I think one thing that would be really interesting to hear is, was there a project that you really enjoyed out of all the things that you worked on, and why?
I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, a project that you really enjoyed, or a project that has stood out to you.
I could say recently I ran a webinar. I think you were part of it. Yeah, so I ran a webinar online as well, and one thing I enjoyed about it is that I just took control. So rather than me being in a position where it's kind of like, oh, why did they not email me? Why did they not give me an opportunity? I'm like, you know what? I understand my audience. Let me speak to them. I've got a laptop. I've got Zoom. I've got a camera. Let me just record it as well. So I was very happy that I took on that project, and it made me realise that there's actually a need as well. A lot of people actually need help on LinkedIn. Like, if I was to ask everyone a question, who's on LinkedIn or who needs help on LinkedIn, how many people put their hands up? So who's on LinkedIn first of all? Okay, and who needs help on LinkedIn as well? Yeah? There's a lot of people that need help on LinkedIn as well, so I realised there's actually a need for LinkedIn as well, and also networking as well, like how to build relationships with different people, how to speak as well. That's something that I realised that, you know what, I never would have known that there actually is a need if I didn't do it as well. And then the webinar has now given me enough content for me to turn it into a program, for me to turn it into a course where I can take it to schools, I can take it to universities, I can also take it to corporates as well, and also do one-to-one support as well. So I would say that's definitely a project as well, and that's something that I want to do more, like just monthly webinars. Probably not this month, a bit booked up, but maybe next month, November. So yeah, that's definitely a project that I'll be proud of.
No, thank you for sharing.
I would say, so I'm currently trying to build the community side of my project, and I had a community event, I would say maybe 2 months ago, and I really enjoyed it because it was just a chat, it was just a chat and connecting with people and remembering that we're all human and we just want to like ourselves and support each other on our journeys. So I think that connection part, because so often I'm talking to people in their professional capacities of coming in and doing a workshop and the logistics and the operational side of that. So when you just have a chance to connect with people on a level, so that was fun for me.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. I think one that I'm proud of is, so we run programs for young Black people, and one of them was an interdisciplinary program where everyone wrote something at the end, and we published an anthology, which was really cool. I think, yeah, that's something I'm proud of, because I learned how to use Adobe Creative Suite, which was such an interesting experience. Just selecting the pieces, reading them through, talking to an artist and shaping it all. It was amazing to have the students hold their, one of the girls who won one of the cash prizes, it was her birthday when she won, and her whole family was there, even her younger brother. So that was really sweet. Literally still looking at the pictures makes me want to cry. But yeah, see them all dance and eat some nice food. It was, yeah, I think that was a big thing I'm proud of.
I think a project that I'm proud of is, and this only started from 2022, is an event program that we do called Talk to Dan for Media Jobs, and it bridges the gap between employers and creatives. So it actually sort of covers all the pain points that young people go through when they get into the media industry. So for Black creatives, for other creatives that want to get in the industry, and young people are given a live brief to work on. Employers are in the room, so we've brought in companies like BBC Sport, Sony Music, just different companies within different sectors of the industry, and Roundhouse even was attended before as well. And what's really great is that it's an inclusive space for creators from all walks of life to be able to work on a live brief, basically insight day, and they're able to actually gain a one-day work experience essentially. So it's only just an evening event. But I think what's amazing about that is that people come away man, I've just come in here and I feel more confident pitching an idea, or I feel more confident networking, or I feel even I've just managed to get that experience with BBC Sport, and I managed to actually meet the person that could be recruiting me. So I think that is where, our eyes lit up, and we've actually put this together, and it's not a simple thing to put together, but I think also it's like, where I'd like to go with it is, and call me mad, I was talking to yourself about earlier, I want to cover 9 regions of the UK. So I want to, that's what I want to do next. Yeah. So like, it's happening in London now. Next we're going to go Manchester, then Brighton, and then obviously West Midlands, East Midlands, Yorkshire and Humber, all these places, and just build different teams across there. Because we've done it 3 years here now, and companies actually pay to come to these events, and the young people's free for them to access. So if you're a young creative in this room, it's something that you should definitely look into. But at the same time, I think because we're building, we have that we resonate with young people, and we have that rapport with them, and that's why it gets so easier for us to kind of like build that connection. So I think that's something that I'm really proud of. Like, it's just kind of, it builds a community as well. That whole event, you just don't know who you're going to meet in that room, the networking element as well. So.
Thank you for sharing. I love the fact that you guys had all individual stories in terms of what stands out for you and what you really enjoy. We've got some questions from the audience. They've submitted them. It's nothing too scary, so you don't have to worry. But the first question is, what do you think the biggest barriers are for Black people in the UK today? So it's very broad. It could be anything.
I think, and I'm gonna go from my experience in the industry when I was even working in X company. I think just being ourselves unapologetically. Like, I've been in places where I've come in and I feel comfortable coming in a tracksuit. I feel comfortable coming a bit more dressed down, but then it's like, are you sure that's okay? You're wearing trainers. Your hair's a bit long. This, that, these sort of comments. And I think the barrier that we have is that we're not able to be ourselves sometimes. And I think like sometimes it's like we have to sort of adhere to certain guidelines and rules. And I'm just there like, I think it's getting better though. I think it's like, it's more accepting now, which sounds mad to say that it's more accepting now when it should be normal, should be fine to be as we are. And I think like, I've got my braids. It is what it is. This is how I go into places. It's not going to change. Even have my braids down to. But I think it's jarring in a sense. I think basically the barrier that we have is like just being ourselves, like men or women, black men, black women, and like just kind of just going into a room and feeling that we don't have to feel like, we have to impress, the white man at the top and be like, this is what it is, and if I have my hair like this, or if I say this a certain way, or it's quite jarring. But I think I will say to people that if you just be yourself, and people, I always go off energies, then people just accept you who you are anyway, either way. So like me, I never change the way I approach or the way I speak to people. I mean, this is how I speak. I have a way of speaking, but obviously I know when to kind of, just be professional about and stuff. I'm not going to be like, yo, go on, bro. To an employee and stuff. But I am going to speak. I'm going to say, yo, you good, bro? Like, I might say that even in front of an employer, because that's just how I speak to another young creative, and that's just how I am. I think the barrier that we have is the language barrier, the physical appearance, all these sort of things, and it's quite tough. I think it's just a conversation that we're going to be having for a while, but I think it'll improve in due time. I hope that sort of like helped everyone. Yeah,
it does. Thanks.
Okay, what was the question? Sorry.
So the question was...
the barriers that the Black British community are facing. Yeah, you touched on quite a few, like a key one. I think dodging stereotypes is so exhausting. It's like, I can't be upset at work, the whole time. So that's kind of exhausting. I think also, like, even within the Black community, feeling like we're a monolith, and then the diaspora was, I think so much of our identity has been projected onto us, and we're just trying to we're battling it. We're either like, no, I can be very professional, or being villainized for not adhering to respectability politics. I think that can be really, really tiring, because when you then get into these rooms, you're so visible. It can feel like there's a target on your back. But there are studies that show that literally when black people are in a space, your mistakes are more noticed. And it's tiring. So I think that's an issue that some people are trying to educate themselves out of. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. But I think that's a big barrier. Yeah.
I guess simply racism. The overall term.
Institutionalized,
Yeah, it's very institutionalized, it's very entrenched, it's structural. I think the thing that upsets me most is the idea that we have to wait for people to pick us, or the opportunities are coming from outside of us. I really struggle with that idea that I am just waiting for someone to decide, or an institution to decide the direction of my life. I really don't like that. So for me, I think where you can, in the places and the spaces that you can, creating your opportunities with your peers. I'm an actor, for example, I'm not getting any work. So I'm okay, I'm gonna write a play with my friends, hire a theatre for the day, and we act. Just the idea that we have to wait, I'm strongly against that.
I also say visibility as well. Even though we're in the room, they don't really sort of see us as well. And sometimes it's more of a thing where they talk anyhow and they say something and they expect us to process it in a way that makes sense to them. It's if you say something that's going to offend us, we're naturally going to feel some way as well. So almost trying to control how we are, how we should feel about stuff, how we should process information, and sometimes it gets to a point where it feels we can't really be ourselves as well. So even with Black History Month, if we're being honest, some organisations don't take it seriously. It's just more of a tick box. They'll just find someone who's black in the workplace and be like, oh, hey, can you put this event on? They're not going to fund it. They're not going to sponsor it. Just do anything. Every year, what does Black History Month mean to you? Come on. I'm tired of that question. Every year, what does it mean to you?
Black History Month is every month.
Yeah. I should flip it around. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? Yeah, so I think what we have to do is just come together to try and get them to really understand that we're not here trying to say that we want to be better than you. We're just here that we just want to be seen as well. So that's why sometimes when I do see us ranting online, it's cool, express yourself, but I just feel it just has to be a better way of dealing with it as well. I don't just want to be someone that's just bent and be like, yeah, what are you doing? You ain't doing this, you ain't doing that. But sort of more come together as well and try to speak to someone who's got influence and try to partner with them to try and have that conversation behind the scenes in order to get them to sort of understand where we're coming from, and also just to come up with some solutions or things that companies should think about in order to make the black employees feel included in the workplace as well.
No, thank you. I like that point that you mentioned specifically about what does Black History Month mean to you, so flipping it to them, so thank you. We're just going to round up onto our last question. So as we reflect on the theme of Black History Month, how do you think we can collectively continue to reclaim our narratives, not during just this month, but all year round? And what are the actionable steps we can take to do that?
I think it all starts from us in our community as well, just empowering one another as well. Because if we're there trying to fight racial injustice, we're trying to get included, they also are looking at the way on how we treat each other. So if they see that we're shouting at each other, cussing each other out, swearing, all this kind of stuff, that's not gonna work out. But if they see that we're forgiving one another, we're healing together, because let's be honest, sometimes certain things get said and it leads to some sort of tension as well. Learn how to forgive each other, learn how to heal, also learning how to grow together as well, learning how to support each other as well, and not just supporting but really asking each person, what does the support look like? How can we grow together? How can I support you as well? Because I think if we all come together, it also plays a part in helping each other feel better, because sometimes when we say that we go through hardships, sometimes it's because we feel alone. But if you have someone that you can speak to and get that support, that also does help as well. And I just believe that we are everyone's like strengths and weakness. What my strength is someone else's weakness, and then vice versa as well. So that's what I'll say for everyone here as well, not just for Black History Month, but for all year round and moving forward. Let's be more together as well. Let's do things together. Let's collaborate. Let's not compete. Let's do things together. Let's help one another. Let's be there for each other. Let's support one another. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey.
I resonate with that. And building power literally comes from collectivism. So for me, I think, I completely agree. Being collective in the way that we, sorry, excuse me, bit of a cough. We live in a very individualistic society, and I think that we need to resist that, actually, and tap into our networks and actually just connect with other people. Can you remind me of the questions? I want to speak directly to that.
Yes, the question was, how can we reclaim our narratives, not during this month, but all year round, and what are the actionable steps we can take as individuals or as an institution?
Yes, what I just said. And ensuring and just realizing that we're an embodiment of who we are, and like how we live our lives is not to prove anything to anyone else, but it's just us. And I think sometimes when you grow up such a racialized society, racism can be a very big distraction to your real purpose and goals and the things that drive you. So even sometimes looking outside of seeing yourself as someone impacted by racism, but what are your actual desires? For me, my life was very much focused on race for a long time, and I didn't pursue the things that I wanted to. I didn't pursue acting because of the barriers, or I didn't pursue setting up a business because of the barriers. But ultimately, like I said, the people that resonate with what you're doing will come, you'll attract them, and you'll also, you'll be motivated to work with people who want to also work with you, who share a similar vision.
I think as well, a thing that can help to reclaim your narratives. The first thing that popped into my mind was reading, engaging with Black authors, scholars, poets, whatever your fancy is, even Sembene, watching films from the past as well, I found so empowering, and also reframe, because so much of what we consume about Black people wasn't written by Black people. So I think flipping that is sick. And also deepen that this has all been designed, some people just made it up, so we can too also make it up, do you know what I mean? I think that helps me a lot, because this isn't fixed. This empire isn't eternal. Structural racism hasn't been there since the dawn of time, neither has sexism. All these things that feel really natural and inevitable are just made up. And obviously they impact us in real ways, but we can also work to dismantle,
I think to reclaim our narrative and sort of look at the Black community as inclusive and sort of just working together, I think one of the big things that I want to push is just think about skill swapping. What I mean by that is you might be really good in one skill, someone else might be good in another skill, and I think someone might be good in coding and then someone might be good in social media, for example, and you're trying to build something within a certain area of your business or just a skill that you want to learn. What's stopping you from saying, you've got 20 minutes or so to teach you about how to build on social media, you've got 20 minutes or so to teach how to build a website. So I think one thing we need to start doing is maybe it could be events, it could be spaces like this, round tables, whatever it could be, and skill swap with people. Even if that's a thing where that person skills up with you, skills up with them, you might end up bringing them on board for some work later in the future, because actually, I really trust in this person, we've worked and resonated with each other. And I've done that before in the past. I learned actually from someone else the skill swapping side of things, where it's helped a lot in the sense where you don't know everything. And you have to help someone actually I don't know everything, and that's completely fine. So if you can skill swap and just understand, I'm curious, I want to learn a bit more about this, and this person knows about this, how can I build my knowledge, how can I even educate more people, that would even help me, but also I can help them, in that certain area. So I've learned so much about websites or graphic design or different things. Where my specialty is film and TV, that's sort of where I started when it comes to the creative industry and the media. But I think if you're able to be like, you know what, like, I even actually tell a lie, I even spoke to Jeffrey recently about this, about podcasting. I wanted to learn a bit more about the podcast industry, and actually, you know what, he gave me some really good tips. And just that skills swap there, he might be like, Dan, you know what, you guys are really doing good on social media. How can I learn a bit more how to engage, when to post, stuff like that? So I think the two words I'll say is skill swap. Think about what you're lacking in, and then maybe what you can, sort of how you can seek that, because it's sort of about objective, but then also how you can help that person as well. So you're both like for like helping each other, but then also at the same time you come together and then probably having like weekly meetups, not weekly, maybe fortnightly, you'd be like, how you getting on that social media aspect, how you getting on that tech aspect, and then everyone just gets, God said it himself, I know obviously we're talking about rappers, he said, you can't get rich with no knowledge. You can't get rich with no knowledge, so you gotta get knowledge from other people and build, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. We've come to the end of our panel talk, so if we can give our panelists a round of applause. We're now going to go into a segment of networking.
Thank you. Just before we do that, I've just got to say 3 quick thank yous. Firstly, it's already been said, but to the panelists, thank you very much for all the work that you've done. Dan sort of alluded to it, but they all do incredible work. You've got 2 amazing LinkedIn professionals, you've got a social media advocate, and someone who's doing incredible work with empowering young creatives. You have someone who's running a business and doing a PhD and is leading and empowering black students, and you have someone who is a social impact leader. So the biggest thing to say with that is, when you're networking, please feel free to ask the panelists any questions, continue the conversation, make sure that you do connect, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, phone number, whichever. These people are amazing. Thank you to my wonderful team. Some people may know 2 of them, my sister, one of them's a good friend. But yeah, thank you very much for your help. And then biggest thank you is to you guys. Thank you for coming. As mentioned at the start, it's a random Wednesday, but we appreciate you being here.